a fabulous-looking crowd on a fabulous-looking day, and that's a good thing because we're going to try to do the naked thing. But before we do, I just wanted to say my name is Bill Smith. I've been working in something called social marketing for the last 40 years. So all of you who think that social marketing is Twitter and Facebook, well, 40 years ago it wasn't. We had Flickr, but we didn't have Twitter. And what I want to do is to try to use some of those ideas around social marketing to see if we can, do something together here. So what is social marketing? Here we go. There we go. Has a lot of fancy definitions. I added an academic journal. You can imagine how boring that is. But basically, what social marketing is, it's a profession, first of all. It's a profession for helping people like you, nice people in the world, to do things that you really don't want to do. But if you do them, they're good for you. And actually, they turn out to be good for all of us. Things like losing a little weight, exercising, turning off your computer, using a condom, those kind of things, which all of you should be doing regularly. Okay. So to do this, let's do this let's get naked thing. Now, how many of you are ready to do this? Because I've done this with hundreds of people, and there's always 5 people in the crowd who's ready right now to just strip down and get this done. There's a hand? No, okay, sorry. Okay. Think about it. The human body is absolutely the most beautiful thing God ever created. And I know, well, I can see some of you saying to yourself right now, Bill, that may be true, but I don't look like these people. And what that means is that you are afraid of being judged. And that's why getting naked is such a challenge for all of us. There are millions, tens of millions of people every morning who run away from getting naked, right? It is a mental health problem. You don't believe me, but it has its own name, and it is called gymnophobia. Now, there are scholars in the room who know that this is not the fear of going to the gym, but the gym comes from the Greek word for nudity. And it is a really serious problem. And I want to see if I can address it with you. Now that you understand that this actually is a serious problem, how many of you are willing to give up this fear and right now just, well, you know what, just take your clothes off? All right, I'm really not surprised by this reaction because I have gotten this from lots of folks over the years. I get a look that looks like this on most people's faces, and I can see it out there right now. But after I talk to people for a while, I often get a common question that says, Bill, could I define what naked means? And the answer to that question is yes. In fact, we call that the presidential prerogative. You can define naked. And one of the most popular definitions of nakedness is given by this young man, a family guy, really, really a nice guy. He's actually the guy who's done all these drawings. His definition is, Bill, if I put on my bathing suit and we went to the pool together and you bought a couple of drinks, could I call that naked? Absolutely. That's just fine. So how many of you would feel comfortable, in the right setting, if I gave you a chance to put on your bathing suit, we went to a pool, and I bought you a drink? How many would be willing to do that? Raise your hands. Okay, how about for those of you who didn't raise your hands, how about if I bought you 2 drinks? So in very few minutes, I got almost 60% of you, which is just about my national average right now, of people willing to get naked if they can put on a suit and have a drink. In fact, one young man, when I first asked him this, he said, Will, you're talking about getting naked, you're going to be talking about alcohol. And it works every time. So what actually happened here? All I did was listen to what you wanted. I'm the one who changed, not you. You didn't change anything. I changed. I changed what I asked you. And that is the absolute key to effective social marketing, to listen to people and to give them what they want. Now let me give you some examples in real life of how this stuff is very, very powerful. How making difficult things fun and easy and popular for you to do rather than making them hard. Okay? The very first examples of social marketing in the world were really developed in Asia to work on family planning. And they were around condom use. Now, many of the women in the audience may not understand that putting on a condom is not an easy thing to do. If you turn it the wrong way, it doesn't unroll, and that is very discouraging. So we developed a series of comic books, showed people how to showed men particularly how to use beer bottles to practice putting on a condom. We also appealed to some of their illusions. Some people call delusions about size. And so we made condom packages really big and showed them how they couldn't be opened. And then some of my friends just said, oh, the heck with it. We're just going to make a condom with a handle on it, and you can pull the thing down, and we'll solve all those problems. This is what social marketing is. It's taking the product and changing it and making it work for people rather than making people change. The first one I was involved in myself were large immunization campaigns in Latin America, where we had to get thousands, tens of thousands of kids immunized very quickly. These campaigns worked beautifully, and they were called Happy Baby campaigns. But they had a problem. The problem was they exhausted the health staff because they were used to sitting in their clinic, have two women come by, give them a shot once a week. Nobody was getting immunized. Suddenly, they were immunizing thousands of kids in a week or two. They were exhausted. So we created what I think is the first affinity credit card for these healthcare workers in 1960, in which this little card was used to redeem things in their communities that only a social worker who'd worked on these immunization campaigns had. Made a huge difference in their lives. Perhaps the most important one I ever worked on was called the Happy Baby Lottery. You can see I've been interested in happy babies my whole life. It's quite true. And here, this picture is a little small, but these women are carrying with them little lottery tickets, because this was called the Happy Baby Lottery. And what these lottery tickets were was a simple sheet of paper that taught women if they mixed 8 bottle caps of sugar, 1 bottle cap of salt, and 3 small bottles of water, they could create a medicine that would keep their child from dying of dehydration. And this, in 1 year, went from no use at all in the homes, because they'd never heard about it, to 47%, not of women, but 47% of cases of diarrhea. And considering that an average child in these communities had 6 bouts of diarrhea a year, that's a lot of stuff going on. So this was an enormously successful program, simply by making it fun and easy and popular for women to get involved with making this stuff. Then something went terribly wrong. And it went wrong when we brought social marketing back to America. Because in America, what suddenly happened is advertising agencies took over. And people in government and people in nonprofit loved these ads. But what they wanted to do wasn't to help people. They wanted to do social messaging. They wanted to raise awareness. They wanted to scare us. And ads like this became enormously popular. You've all seen the face through the window, the crash, the consequences of disease. They want to scare us into doing things. And they call this marketing. They also called this marketing. They used clever design and advertising to make it clear that we were going to get a ticket unless we buckled up. So scaring us and hurting us are not really marketing. They work. They're helpful. Wouldn't want to do away with them. There are some things we need to be scared about, and there's some things we darn well need to do. But there are many things in which we need real help. Marketing had become advertising. And these two campaigns became the absolute gold standard of social marketing in America. The Just Say No campaign and Gut Milk. I'll just tell you quickly about Gut Milk, because I've been following the history of it for about 15 years now. There's been no increase in milk sales as a result of Gut Milk, but everybody loves the poster. And Just Say No, well, finally we did say just no to Just Say No. I want you to think about Coca-Cola using this approach as their marketing approach. Well, the first thing is we wouldn't need the brown liquid. We wouldn't need the can. We wouldn't need the shelf to put the can on. We wouldn't need the price tag that you put on the shelf that tells you that it's on sale this week. You wouldn't need any of those things. All we would need is clever advertising that just says, don't drink it, with a picture of Pepsi, right? This isn't marketing. Coke's not going to make any money telling you not to drink Pepsi, and we're not going to get kids off drugs by telling them not to do it. Many years ago, a really close friend of mine asked a young man who looks very much like this a very interesting question. And the kid's answer to the question was the following. Well, it's where I get my friends. And by the way, you know, it's the only thing I've ever done that makes me feel I'm good at something. My parents never said I was good at anything, and God knows in school, no teacher ever told me I was good at anything. And by the way, you know, it takes up time. It gives me something to do. Now, this was not the kid's baseball team, wasn't his night basketball. It was selling drugs. This kid was a pusher. And when we tell him to just say no, what we're telling him to say no to is his friends, to the things which gives him a purpose in life. It's crazy. It's like me telling you to just say no to your job. Just say no to your favorite sport. Just say no. Just stop it. Just stop it. It doesn't work. What we need to do is to give him something to say yes to, and that is what marketing is about. It's about selling Coke, not selling Pepsi. Okay. So I want to give you some examples of this. This is a young Hispanic woman. And Hispanic women, it turns out, when they first come to the United States, are very resistant to using car seats. It's not because they can't afford them. They thought it was money. It isn't money. It's the fact that they really believe that their child's life is in God's hands. And that whether he's in our funny little car seat or in their arms, if God wants to take the baby, then God's going to take the baby. So we could have warned her, you know, about this. You can see the dramatic poster of a child's head smashed against a tree. We could fine her, take her driver's license away. What these folks did was get a priest to bless the car seats. And those car seats sold like mad. Now, we don't actually have scientific evidence that blessed car seats are safer than unblessed car seats. But we do have scientific evidence that women use blessed ones and they don't use unblessed ones. This is what marketing is about. It's about understanding who people are and creating products and services that meet those needs. In Madagascar, young women there are hassled by gender and by sexual abuse. And they told us over and over again, in our culture, we don't know what to say. We just don't have the words. So a buddy of mine created a red card program. And the red card comes from those of you who know soccer. You know what happens when a soccer player gets red carded. He fouls out. This little card says, no, I'm not ready. Printed 2 million of them, passed them out to women all over the island, and suddenly guys were getting red carded. In fact, the conversation was, have you been red carded 3 times last week? I was red carded. It changed the context in which women could talk about a guy pushing too hard. We used it to save reefs in Indonesia because when the tropical fish industry, when you needed to catch the fish, they didn't know exactly what fish were needed. We used a supply chain that Walmart had developed, made some simple PDAs, some for farmers, some for fishermen, which had their own picture on it, and some for the fish that were actually needed. These are my favorite guys, is the last story I'll tell you. These are guys from Wisconsin. Love these guys. These guys wanted to do something about their buddies who refused not to drink and drive, okay? So what they did was ask the key marketing question. It wasn't I asked you. What will it take? What do I have to do to get you to not drink and drive? And one of the wise butt guys in the back said, I want a limo to drive me and to drive my friends from one bar to another. I'm not showing up in one of those taxi cab free ride things you have. It's embarrassing for a real man, okay? So that's what they did. They bought some limos. They created a program called Road Crew. They had testicle festivals to raise money for it. That's a whole other story. But it worked. And social marketing is not about slogans. It's about creating products and services that work for people. We've got to figure out how to get back into the business of helping people rather than warning them and scaring them. I just wanted to make one final comment. Many of you know the words in the Declaration of Independence about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But do you remember the second sentence? The second sentence says, and that's what government is about. The big question in Washington now is what's government about? It's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think marketing can help government and nonprofits use happiness in the pursuit of life and liberty. Thank you.